Kashmir is a place of beautiful simplicity and pristine natural beauty, surrounded by the snow-capped mountains. The implausible beauty of Kashmir leaves an everlasting impression on one's mind. The region of Kashmir is known to be one of the most beautiful destinations existing in the Himalayas, the youngest fold mountain in the world. The northernmost state of India, Jammu and Kashmir shares boundaries with Pakistan and China, and with the Indian states of Punjab and Himachal Pradesh in the south. For a better understanding about the region, Jammu and Kashmir can be divided into three regions: the Jammu region with majority of population following Hinduism, followed by Islam; Kashmir area with majority Islam followers; and Ladakh region with major share of people is in Islam, followed by Buddhism and Hinduism. The life of people in Kashmir is not that simple due to manifestation of both international and domestic politics. A clear picture of Kashmir can be captured through a short journey with respect to Article 370 of Indian Constitution. To know about Article 370, some episodes of Indian freedom struggle have to be inculcated in our journey. Before independence, for the administrative purposes, the Indian territory was divided into provinces and princely states. Before the partition of India in 1947, about 584 princely states existed in India, which were not fully and formally part of British India. The parts of the Indian subcontinent which had not been conquered or annexed by the British but under indirect rule, these kingdoms were not legally part of British India, but in reality, they were completely subordinate to the British Crown. After independence and partition of Indian subcontinent into India and Pakistan, these princely states had the autonomy to join either Indian Union or Pakistan. There were several states that were adamant to not join India. Some of them thought this to be the best moment to acquire independent statehood, while there were others who wanted to become a part of Pakistan. The princely states like Travancore, Jodhpur, Hyderabad, Bhopal, Junagadh and Kashmir were the states that refused to join India after independence. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, then Deputy Prime Minister and the Home Minister with the assistance of V.P. Menon, the Secretary of the Ministry of the States, was given the formidable task of integrating the princely states. Sardar Patel tried to convince these states about joining Indian Union and possible anarchy if not, even introduced the concept of privy purses, a payment to be made to royal families for their agreement to merge with India. Sooner or later he merged all princely states to Indian Union, but the case of Jammu and Kashmir was different. Kashmir was a princely state with a Hindu king ruling over a predominant Muslim population which had remained reluctant to join either of the two dominions. On 24 October 1947, Pakistan army of soldiers with thousands of tribal Pathans invaded the Kashmir. The Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir Hari Singh appealed to India for help. He sent his representative Sheikh Abdullah to Delhi for India's help. India decided to help the Kashmir based on that. On 26 October 1947, Maharaja fled from Srinagar and arrived in Jammu where he signed an instrument of accession of J&K state. According to the terms of the document, the Indian jurisdiction would extend to external affairs, communications and defence. After the document was signed, Indian troops landed into the state and fought alongside the Kashmiris against Pakistan. Like other Indian states, Jammu and Kashmir was included as a Part B state in the first schedule of Indian Constitution, as it was promulgated in 1950. As per Section 3 of the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution, Jammu and Kashmir is and shall be an integral part of the Union of India. So, let's discuss, what is Article 370? It was temporary, transitional and special provisions of our Constitution, forms the basis of the special status of J&K, which provides for a separate constitution of Jammu and Kashmir and also limits the Union Parliament's power to make laws for Jammu and Kashmir. So, Union Parliament can make laws for Jammu and Kashmir, relating to 3 subjects of defense, foreign affairs and communication. Also, the head of the elected government will be called as Prime Minister of Jammu and Kashmir instead of Chief Minister. The Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir was elected to write the constitution, with Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah as the Prime Minister in 1951 as the National Conference won all seats in the election. But to be noted that there were other princely states like Travancore, Mysore and Saurashtra had their own constitution assembly similarly to Jammu and Kashmir. Travancore and Mysore joined Indian Union in 1952 and Saurashtra in 1949 itself. In 1952, the Delhi Agreement was signed between Prime Ministers of India and Jammu and Kashmir, giving special position to the state under Indian constitutional framework, as to the subjects over which Union should have jurisdiction over the state. On 6 February 1954, the Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly ratified the accession of the state to the Union of India. The accession of the state to Indian Union was an easy process, but the political adventurism since 1953 made the situation worse. When elected Constitution Assembly was constituted, Sheikh Abdullah has an agenda of Naya Kashmir with agrarian reforms, because all land of the state was under state or with Maharaja and his kin. If right to property of the Indian constitution was accepted, his agenda of land to tiller will not be in reality. This agrarian reform was converted into Hindu-Muslim identity issue. As most of the land was under Maharaja, this led to the arbitrary dismissal of the elected government in Jammu and Kashmir by Nehru in 1953. Bakshi Ghulam Muhammad of National Conference became the Prime Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, and Sheikh Abdullah was arrested in August 1953. Due to the political blunder of dismissal of Sheikh government, the political course of Kashmir has changed. Thereafter polity was focused on autonomy for Kashmir, and separatism started deeply rooted among the masses. By 1955 all Jammu and Kashmir Plebiscite Front was formed by Mirza Muhammad Afzal Beg for the release of Sheikh Abdullah and demanded popular plebiscite to decide on state should remain on part of India or Pakistan or independent. During these periods the autonomy the state Jammu and Kashmir enjoyed through Article 370 was nullified. In November 1964 Article 356 of Indian Constitution, which deals with presidential rule, was extended to Jammu and Kashmir through an order in Article 370. Till 1966 the head of the state was the elected Sadar-i-Riyasat as per the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution. It was changed by amending the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution. Thereafter head of the state was centrally appointed governor. In 1965 the Jammu and Kashmir Constitution were amended to replace the title of head of the government from Prime Minister to Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. Similarly, in 1975, 1986 etc. the special status enjoyed by Jammu and Kashmir through Article 370 was nullified by the whims and fancies of the central government of India, even when there is no elected government in the state. From 1955 onwards the voice of Plebiscite Front became louder in the mountains and valley, and they got more prominence in the political space, with separatism started deeply rooted among the people in the state as they are not properly represented in the government. By 1975 separatism reached its peak. In 1965 the remnants of National Conference merged with Indian National Conference and became the Kashmir branch of Inc. After Bangladesh Liberation War, 1971, the situation changed. Sheikh Abdullah came for a reconciliation talk with the then Prime Minister of India, Madam Indira Gandhi. As the Pakistan lost its might after the war, the Plebiscite Party gave up the idea of demand plebiscite and look forward for a self-rule by democratically elected self-government by Article 370. Based on Indira Sheikh Accord in 1974, Abdullah returned to power and regained the name of his party National Conference instead of Plebiscite Front. Again by 1982 he won the election and became the chief minister till his death, and after his death his son Farooq Abdullah became the chief minister of the Jammu and Kashmir. During the period between 1984 to 1987 Congress Party again engineered defection in National Conference. A faction led by brother-in-law of Farooq Abdullah, Ghulam Muhammad Sheikh, broke away and there was a fall of government, and with the support of Congress Party Farooq Abdullah became the chief minister of the state again. Before 1987 election Jamaat-e Islami joined hands with Muslim Union Front pointed out that National Conference betrayed the Jammu and Kashmir on special status for sake of power, and efforts were made to bring masses with them through communal line for the liberation of Kashmir. In this scenario, election in 1987 held with the National Conference emerged victoriously, but there was a claim of widespread rigging in the election. After Farooq Abdullah became the chief minister, the people in the Kashmir Valley lauded that the government lacked legitimacy and rebels banned election. The valley then sank into frustration and ended up in radicalism, started bomb attack in Srinagar, and emergency is declared in state from 1990 onwards. Since 1990 insurgency emerged in the state, youth in the Kashmir landed up in radicalism for political emancipation and self-rule. The state authorities always responded with force to the popular demand. The active role of Pakistan happened in Jammu and Kashmir during this period with the supply of arms and ammunition, men and materials to the rebels in the state of Jammu and Kashmir for attaining the objective of autonomy. 1999 Kargil War with Pakistan was the aftermath of radicalism in the valley. The radicalism in 1990 led to the exodus of 6 lakhs Kashmir Pandits, and government imposed Draconian Armed Forces Special Powers Act in Jammu and Kashmir, which enables special power to army officers to shoot and kill anyone who violate law, and with that human right violations reached its peak during this period. By 2008 stone pelting in Kashmir started, which refers to act of criminal assault in the form of stone throwing by Kashmiri Muslim youth who pelt, bombard or throw stones on the Indian security forces deployed in Jammu and Kashmir. Media and political opponents put the Kashmir youth as anti-nationals, but the reality is different. Most of these youth alienated because of insurgency in 1990, where they lost their parents, less economic opportunity and mere political autonomy. On 5 August 2019, President of India, in the exercise of the powers conferred by Clause 1 of Article 370 of the Constitution, had issued the Constitution Application to Jammu and Kashmir Order, 2019. Through this, Government of India has made modifications in Article 370 itself. With this, the Government of India has dramatically altered the relationship between the state of Jammu and Kashmir and the Indian Union. Subsequently, the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganisation Bill, 2019, passed by Parliament, divides the state of Jammu and Kashmir into 2 new union territories, UTs, Jammu and Kashmir, and Ladakh. Among the 6 Lok Sabha seats currently with the state of Jammu and Kashmir, 5 will remain with the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, while 1 will be allotted to Ladakh. The UT of Jammu and Kashmir will have an assembly, like in Delhi and Puducherry. The special status provided to J&K under Article 370 will be abolished hereafter. In a common parlance, the decision made by central government was a good move, and media and social media applauded the decision made by the government. But the reality is something different. The polity in Jammu and Kashmir is revolving around Article 370. Once it is withdrawn, already nullified Article 370 with various presidential order got fresh fill-up. Now opposition parties in the state will demand for reinstating Article 370, and it will lead to further escalated level with rise in militancy. Once situation in Kashmir is back on track with normal life, there is a possibility of widespread protests and violence as a reaction to the dilution of Article 370. Terror elements in Pakistan would find Kashmir to be the most fertile ground for breeding terrorism. The unrest can affect the democratic progress that has been made so far. Internationally, the decision taken by the government severely affected the bilateral relationship between India and China. The new claims of territory by China as an aftermath of revoking Article 370, thereby a domestic issue was made into an international level by the central government of India. Those who are well aware about the history and ground reality will never revoke special status of Jammu and Kashmir through Article 370. Jammu and Kashmir is not an exception. Article 371 in the Indian Constitution is the clear-cut example on special provisions provided to some states of India. Militancy in Kashmir killed 41,000 lives in past 27 years, with 14,000 civilians, 5,000 security personnel, 22,000 militants by March 2017. Need of participative politics is a must in Kashmir. It was during period that Kashmir is known to have witnessed 2 most credible elections in 1977 and 1983 that helped generate a legitimacy for the mainstream politics. Legitimacy was attained by mainstream politics in the more recent 2002–2014 period as well, and though the intensely competitive and locally grounded politics did not automatically result in the elimination of separatist politics, but it offered sufficient challenge to separatist organizations and leaders. By 2002 people understood the need of mainstream politics of governance and started participation in large numbers in election process. During 2011 Panchayat elections there were 80% of turnout, which challenged the separatism in a better manner. The proper solution to Kashmir issue is in two fronts, domestically and internationally. In domestic level, participative democracy with self-government is a must. On international level, the border issues with Pakistan has to be settled with a better bilateral relationship with Pakistan. The central government says there will be big investments in Jammu and Kashmir. It is a well-known fact that only when there is peace and concord proper investment will happen. The move to abrogate Article 370 was a Himalayan blunder, similarly to the demonetization, which will prove futile in no time. Kashmir need a change of course. The vision and model adopted by Atal Bihari Vajpayee and the UPA government headed by Manmohan Singh was effective. No one can win hearts of the people by fake propaganda through WhatsApp and Facebook. Universities, only through better engagement with Kashmir people and the deepened democracy can bring changes in the life of people in Kashmir and peace to the nation.